Today's Blind Side is an exclusive interview with Tommy Sotomayor, who sat down for a chat with the Glass Blind Spot during ICMI, which took place in Chicago, August 2019. For the uninitiated, Tommy is, amongst many other things, a comedian, a broadcaster, a talk show host, a YouTube personality, a social and political commentator, and the director of A Fatherless America, a documentary about the lack of fathers in modern America. He was undoubtedly one of the major highlights of ICMI and featured heavily in Canaries in Chicago, my documentary film about that conference. I'll leave links for that and for Tommy's social media below, but first sit back and enjoy a little snapshot of Tommy's unique perspective on the world.
And you get up every day and you go out to support, protect, provide. And you don't get any type of medal for it. You don't get any type of pat on the back. They don't give you the big piece of chicken anymore. And when you have a bunch of men who do all the work that they're supposed to do, and they don't get credit for it, and there's nobody there because you got households like in the black community, but there's no one there to give them credit for being men, namely a father, namely some type of male figure. And that's why you have situations where 80% of all men who are in jail come from fathers.
Tommy, thank you very much. Just a couple of questions. Really, essentially, I've been to, obviously, I listened to your talk on Friday. Friday, wasn't it? You've done a couple of panels. You bring a lot of wisdom to this subject, on the issue of fatherlessness. But I think a lot of people have said this to you, that you brought a lot of humour to this conference, and it's crucial. I think that is really, really important. It's been great to see people, kind of emoting and laughing. And so I just wanted to ask you about how important you think humour is to boys, and especially, I guess, that kind of, masculine type of humour. Particularly when you're growing up, I think I think boys are more prone to be. Back in Belfast, we call them dicks. You're being a bit of a dick because you're 13, you're 14, you don't know the world. So, just be curious to know your thoughts on that.
Well, I've always felt that way, and no offense, but women aren't funny, and the reason they're not funny is typically because they don't go through what men go through, and a lot of times when you're going through something really traumatic, one of the ways to get through it is with humor, to be able to laugh in the face of danger, because most men find themselves, 93% of all workplace injuries and deaths, they're all men. We have to be able to laugh at society and things that go on in society, because the truth is no one really cares what happens with us. And when you take those fathers out of the homes, which are teaching these boys sometimes how to laugh at things and understand that life is going to happen, so if it's going to happen, smile. The women are saying take everything offensive. Take everything as a blow to your ego and never get over it. And always just sit there and let the world know that you've offended me. That's why you have a lot of it, they call them now snowflakes. That's why the left and the young of the left are seriously snowflakes. Any joke bothers them. Comedians like I am, we don't even know how to do our jobs anymore because someone's going to record something that we said and they're going to shut us down because that joke offended someone who wasn't even there. I grew up in a household where I had a mother who had children by several different men, and all of us used to run around the house talking about how bad our father was. Your daddy ugly. Well, your daddy broke. And then my other brother, his daddy was ugly and broke, so he just had, we got him all day. But I never thought it was strange because all my friends' daddy was either ugly or broke too. So it was like it was a normal thing in the black community. Nobody had their fathers around. I mean, they may have been around in the neighborhood, and you'd kind of guess if that was really your dad or if it's this other guy, because mom would get mad at him and say, well, he's not your kid anyway. These were normal discussions in the households of a lot of blacks, especially in the inner city. I never thought it was anything wrong until my mom moved us from the ghetto to middle class in the suburbs.
obviously you do the comedy circuit. You do certainly in America, presumably, for, wider scale as well.
Yeah, I got parts of my tour is in Japan, Amsterdam, the UK, Portugal. I got 2 on the continent of Australia and 1 in New Zealand. So it's all over. I mean, the support that I've been getting from the people have been awesome. I didn't even get a chance to tell people here that I was performing in Chicago last night. I performed in front of a sold out crowd. I wish that I could have. I don't know why I forgot, but I would have loved to have some of you guys here, but it was sold out.
Yeah, well, I'm going to ask you about that in a minute, actually. But kind of just on that tour thing and what you're saying about sort of. It's difficult for comedians to know what they're allowed to say, and the snowflake kind of culture that is kind of coming in. Have you seen particular differences? So people are saying that the comedy circuit in England and Great Britain, for example, is becoming increasingly politically correct.
Yes.
And to the point where people are being informed as to the lists of things they can or cannot talk about. So is that similar in America? And are you finding sort of some places are more relaxed, or how's that going?
Because I set everything up myself, and my tour is called the Anti-PC Tour. Okay. And I want everyone, if you watch me, you know that I'm going to say something ridiculous. If you come there to get offended, then that's your fault. But I tell people, look, I set this up, I paid for this myself. You came in, you know what's going to happen. If you don't want it, then don't come. Yeah. I also try to keep it to where I don't get I like Dave Chappelle is one of the best to do it. I like what he does.
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle decided no one can bring in a phone, no one can record his show.
Yes. Yeah.
And so you're not going to go back and put it on the internet and make him look bad. It's just going to be word of mouth. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I try to do certain things like that, but I don't mind. I think that we need to go back to where people are mentally strong enough to disagree. Because that's where we are right now, and that's because there are no fathers in the home, and the women don't have to disagree. Yeah. Men have to disagree all the time, and half the time when we're in discussion, we're trying to make sure that I don't have to fight you and you don't kill me, so we're trying to be a little more diplomatic when we speak. Women don't have that. Most women will tell you, hey, you're a man, you're not supposed to touch me, so I can do what I want. And that's why we have situations where something as simple as comedy is being shut down. Because the guys understand this is what we do. It's a joke.
Yeah.
But when the women got in and got the power, they started to say, you can't joke like that, you can't speak like this. So I run into it, I just go through it or around it.
How can we bring more black men into this movement?
Well, that's difficult because we are a matriarchal society. Blacks believe that the woman is the most important thing in the world. Yeah. I mean, if you look at somebody like Eminem was able to have a song and say if his mother had shortcomings, he was able to say it. And white people weren't bothered. They were like, yeah, I got a mom that's a bitch too. Yeah. Black guys are like, you don't call my mom a bitch. As a matter of fact, if you think about playground, well, you may not know this, but on black playgrounds, saying yo mama, like yo mama jokes are a thing. And you say yo mama to a black guy, it doesn't matter what's going on, he will beat you to death.
Yeah.
Your mother's a crackhead. And his mama will be over there going, don't let him talk about me like that. And he will fight. But if you say, your daddy ain't shit, he'll be like, you know my dad?
Right. Yeah.
So you got to change the mindset of black men to be able to be honest about what they see, and that's what society is telling us. That's why you got 400-pound beauty queens, because somebody's supposed to find that attractive.
Yeah. Right.
Not what your eyes see, it's what we tell you.
Yeah.
And that's what the leftist movement is doing. So in order to change the minds of black men, talk to them in barbershops, because that's when I started to realize when I talk to them in barbershops, they're very open and honest. But once they get out that door, and we got to give them the ability to feel like they can come, because it is sad. I was like, I feel like a fly in buttermilk in here.
Yeah, right.
So it does need to be more of us, but you got to convince them that, hey, you can say something about women and still get women. I learned that in college, that white boys could still say stuff about women and still got women.
Yeah.
Black guys think if we say anything negative about women, they will not talk to us.
Like, obviously, like everything goes in generalizations. So, I agree. The best comedians, practically all of them you can list, are men. There will be, there are some very, very funny women.
Yeah.
I think Christopher Hitchens made the big argument about, you know, the fact that one of the reasons there's so many funny men is because that's part of our currency. That is how we are, you know, our role is to entertain, and we learn that is how to charm women, and that's part of how we negotiate. Again, I'm from Belfast. You know, kind of, we've had our troubles over the years, and we've had, you know, quite a dark humour at times, and you see that in sort of dark situations, that sort of the more desperate the situation, sometimes the darker the humour, because it lets off, it vents, it lets off the steam, and you see that in relationships as well. The best relationships, the couples joke and it vents the steam. So again, in terms of what would you say to a young man who just, you know, kind of wants to say what he feels in a funny way, but is afraid of what's either, you know, kind of how people might react, or if he cracks a joke on social media and you know, he's afraid it's going to come back, because that becomes kind of, you know, self-censorship, which can be so crucial to then how you emote everything about yourself.
A lot of these boys are afraid to speak the truth or speak their funny, their humor side, because they're not even worried about what the women will think. They honestly are worried that the other men won't back them up. So instead of saying what can help them speak out, what we need to do is say what can help us help them to speak out. If we as men stop turning on the first time someone says that's offensive, and we as men say, well, it is offensive. We knew it wasn't offensive, but we were afraid to get thrown under the proverbial bus. So we allowed that person to get thrown under the bus, and we just watch. If we as men stood up and said, no, well, that humor is not offensive to me, in large numbers, because the club owners, men, the people who are setting all of this stuff up, men, it's a bunch of men in power. So why are the men in power so afraid to back their talent? They're afraid to back what society actually does want. In America, we have a whole bunch of liberal policies, but when you reach and talk to regular people in regular life, that's actually not where the policies are. They're more in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
So why are we still pushing liberal policies? Because they're smart enough to make men fear standing up and being counted.
How did it go last night? I'm curious, kind of, did it come up that you were talking at a men's rights conference in terms of the audience? Was that sort of, how do you, you know, introduce these sort of subjects in your kind of mainstream comedy set?
I just do it. It's all I've done. I've always fought for men's rights. I believe in I'm a man. Why wouldn't I? They say, well, you're black. Why don't you talk for black rights?
Sure,
okay.
Sure.
But they never say, you're a man. Why don't you speak for men's rights?
Yeah.
And that dynamic right there is the reason why I wanted to get in front of the world, if I could, to talk about, to joke about, to laugh about, but to cry about. We have to understand that there's a lot of pain that men are going through, which is the reason why you have us committing suicide at such large rates.
Yeah.
Do you understand that if men die anywhere between like 10, 15 years earlier than women do, it's a stupid number.
Sure.
If it was opposite that, there would be a whole bunch of people saying, we got to save the women. These women are dying too young.
Yeah.
You look at these football over here in America, our football. Every October, they're wearing pink. They're showing support for women going through breast cancer.
Yeah.
But the next month, it's prostate cancer.
Yeah. Okay. And
you don't see it.
Yeah.
And those men will suffer from what first? Breast cancer or prostate cancer.
Yeah.
So they don't even care about their own deaths. So that's why I do what I do, because I want to give men somebody to say, hey, that guy fought for us.
Yes.
So that's my comedy.
Yeah, no, and thank you for that. And I think you see with a lot of kind of male comedians, they will talk about a lot of the issues that you talk about in your comedy, and you know, the issues that have been talked about in this conference. And I don't want to name names, but I'm thinking of like one particular famous comedian who does a lot of this sort of comedy. But when he was accused of being a men's rights activist, he backed off. Why do you think men back off from that label and from that concept of standing up for men's rights?
It's literally looked at as a terrorist. I've heard a lot of men in here saying that they were called terrorists being a part of a men's rights group.
Yeah.
It's being associated with a white power group. Literally, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, that's certainly part of it. I think kind of there's a lot of bits going on, and part of it is it's not cool. It's really not cool.
Well, you lose a lot of money. Trying to stand up for men, and that's another thing that men do not do very well. Yeah. We will spend money on women we don't know, but we won't spend money on men who we watch do things that matter. Women can get people to pool money together for a woman speaker or somebody who's doing something for them. But men, though, it's very difficult for us to go somewhere and put money down for another man unless there are women there. And we treat each other like second-class citizens. None of this stuff would exist had men had any type of solidarity. Women have solidarity even when they're fighting. When it comes to a cause, they get together.
Okay, yeah.
Men, we don't.
So I started to see a different dynamic. Then I started to notice that there was this thing called, I don't need a man. All the teenage girls would talk about having a baby. They wanted a baby. It was like an accessory more than it was. It really was. It was an accessory. They would say what they wanted to do with the kid, and they really wanted to have one. And by the time they turned 16, well, they got what they wanted. It still wasn't strange, but when I saw that the white girls were having just as much sex as the black girls, but they weren't having as many kids. Then I noticed they talked about this thing called anal sex, but that is not what we're going to talk about here. But as I grew up and I grew older, I started to notice we got to college, and a lot of the girls in college had children by the time they would get to college, or they would drop out because they had gotten pregnant. These things weren't abnormal. The people never got upset. Their parents never got mad because there was no father around. It was strange that black men are asked to be men when there's no reason for them to be a man, because why would you want to be a man when men are hated in your community? And I'll explain. Well, my dad was either ugly or broke. Your dad was never around. I couldn't stand him. He didn't send a check. You can't get shoes because dad didn't send any money. He became the blame of everything that went wrong in the black household, and the mom became she was the goddess. She was everything. No matter what she did wrong, you never could blame her. It was always your father. My mother, when she would get mad at me, she would say, you stupid like your dumbass daddy. You ugly like your ugly ass daddy. Everything I did wrong, it was like my dad. Then I understood why black women can refer to themselves as queens or gods. Because typically in a religion, you don't blame God for anything. You blame this devil. Well, the devil became the man. Then I looked in society and I noticed right now, today, society is doing the same thing with men. Why would any man want to grow up to be a man? Especially a black man. That's why if you notice in these movies, they have black men being very gay, and everybody loves that gay black man. Because why would he want to be a masculine man? Because he's going to be accused of something, or he has to be some kind of misogynist. Tupac Shakur, one of the greatest African-American literary artists of all times, he had a lyric in one of his songs, and he talked to his mother, and he said, even though you was a crack fiend, mama, you always was a black queen, mama. And I said, damn, the bar is low on queendom. But daddy missed 2 child support payments, and he ain't shit.
I want to ask a question about kind of mothers and motherhoods, because I mean, you talk, very passionately about that and about the significance, particularly in the black community, of the role of mother. Do you have any thoughts? I mean, kind of just this concept of a mother, her kind of instinctual role is to protect her children, and yet so many couples, when it comes to divorce and separation, and clearly there's, all the science is in that a father is very important, and you do not want to separate your father from your children, even if the relationship has ended. Why do you think that so many kind of good mothers still do that? That sort of thing, they might instinctually want the best for their children, but yet they go against that instinct to push the man completely out of the picture?
Because I don't think they have the instinct to do what's best for their kids. Most of the time they have the instinct to do what's best for themselves. And you can't really get mad, because from birth to adulthood, most women are being told that how they feel and what they think matters more than the greater good. Most men are being told that there's a greater good. Even though you're walking in this door, there's some other people coming behind you, hold the door for them, let them in. Men are being told greater good, greater society. Women are being told what you want, that's what you get.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. One last thing. How did it, just in general, was it a good night last night?
Yeah, it was a great night. The show went well. You can find it on the website. It'll be at TommySotomayor.com. Easily to find. The way you can find it on my social media as well. But you can find clips of it there. It was an awesome show. You guys would have enjoyed it.
I got to look forward to checking it out. Thank you very much, Tommy.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Deanna Lorraine, and I'm actually speaking tomorrow on a similar topic. Thank you so much for your work. We definitely need to clone you about 1,000 times. So we need more of you in our community. But one question I have for you is, number one, would you say that the number one problem in the Black community is fatherlessness versus like systemic racism as far as why they may not be getting ahead more?
Fatherlessness.
Fatherlessness.
Mhm.
Okay, right.
Racism is like the thank you.
Just checking your pulse on that one.
No, I do, and that's why I put out the movie, and that's why I've always talked about it, because I know the shortcomings of a lot of guys that I grew up with and a lot of guys that you talk to. It's literally that idea of how can we be a man when we have no idea what one looks like.
Right.
So you have an individual who's in this community, and community is usually formed by the individuals who are the doctors, the lawyers, and things like that. So you can all have this little group of people, and we don't need the government. You remove that man, that woman now needs that protector. That protector has become the government. You cannot call the cops racist, but then everything bad happens, you call the cops. You can't say the United States government's racist, but then say when the check is not there on the 1st or the 15th, where's my check? We're sending mixed messages as Black people. We're saying white people are bad, but white people give us stuff.
Exactly. And have you seen yourself successful transformations of Black men who have been at first resistant to your message of self-empowerment, taking responsibility, being a man, being a good father, to coming around to it and then being successful themselves?
I have seen some of it, but the truth be told, I'm like porn to Black people. Like, you see all of these views and stuff, but everybody says they hate it. There have been Black men who have been in their closet and their woman caught them and they were in there watching me. And she's like, what are you watching? He said, gay porn. Like, he got in less trouble for watching that.
That's what I was thinking.
So it's a difficult thing for them to do, but they're more coming around and they're starting to realize it's like...
It's so hard, though.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
There's so much resistance.
And it's entrenched. Again, this is a patriarchal society. Black people feel like the woman is first. Put the woman first. So you cannot have a group of men saying, well, how about you give us equal billing?
Can't you see it too? There's an elephant in the room.